actively involved in these processes throughout Uganda. Do you want to tell us about what you do?
During election time, we have been organizing groups to monitor elections, and then we make people identify hate speeches during elections and see whether whatever is happening during campaigns is either going to cause peace or violence. And I got engaged in Rwanda. There's some peace process in Uganda, in South Sudan, in Kenya, in Tanzania, and then also in South Africa.
And he has also been doing, sometimes we have students that come in from different universities and join ours, just to look at the issues of reconciliation in refugee camps, just for students to reflect on the issues that surround the matter of reconciliation, even for people when they are still in refugee camps, considering going home, and or never going back home. What does that mean? And the ethics that reflect that, the Christian ethics, which has been very helpful for students.
Yeah. So the refugee camps, people have fled from ethnic violence. There's a lot of pain, and you're working to deal with that pain.
And then there are also other, like we're saying, the land issues that arise. What does it mean to a poor community going back and discovering you are displaced, and all the land conflicts that arise from those.
Yes. So which brings up another course I didn't put in here, but the issue of land rights and efficacy is, so we've mixed the efficacy and land rights together. But for the urban poor, by definition, they are dispossessed. They're squatters. They're dispossessed in the rural area, they come to the city, they're dispossessed again, twice dispossessed. The end result of capitalism is landless people. And it's also the end result of colonialism. You can track it through the British history, as the Danes and the Normans invaded Britain, became the upper class, saw the lands of the peasants. Eventually they enclosed the lands of the peasants. They forced out my people, my family, off the land. We fled to places like New Zealand and Australia and America. And the British continued this process in Uganda, in India. Wherever the British went, they were after land. Today it's not the British, it's, even I read one whole part of Uganda was just bought maybe a few years ago by an Arabian sheikh. Nobody knew he'd bought this whole section of the property, because it was done under the table, but now he owns that land. So the last pieces of land around the world are now being bought by the rich. And yet there is no Christian, international gathering of evangelical Christians or any kind of Christians to deal with land and land issues. So we have the only course I can find on the theology of land rights. We're creating theology. The praxis is out there. You and Habitat has a certain degree of praxis, but there's no theological reflection on that praxis. So this is a pretty significant course for us as a degree. And I think that there is money out there if you're struggling in your universities. I think with this course, with the community economics course, there are donors who would put money in for the development of these kind of courses because they see that these issues are very important. And so you might not be able to fund your whole program, but you could fund pieces of the program, and every little bit helps to keep it going.
Under the reflection and economics, in the Philippines, there has been a proliferation of network marketing, digital network marketing. I think we need to have something launched on reflection on this.
Yeah. Yes.
All over. Customers are like, you gotta do this or what? There's a lot of products out there, and some pastors are really making good money out of multi-level marketing.
And some are caught up in Ponzi schemes, which are, unjust.
Right.
So you've got the two extremes where it's helpful and it's unhelpful. So is it theological reflection or is it practical understanding of what's right and wrong?
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah.
And it can also change relationships in the church.
Okay. So what's the relationship of the pastor and his people and these economic schemes like microfinances or marketing or self-help groups? So that's an important discussion. Generally, the pastor should not be involved. But that's an important discussion to have in a classroom and talk with the pastors and see their experience. Similarly, at the political level, generally the pastor should not be involved in the political issues. Should be teaching about justice, but he should not mix his political persona with his pastoral persona, because wherever that happens, you just find a mess happening. So that, again, there's a discussion about that, and the Catholic Church has been very clear on that for very good reasons.
I have not seen theological reflection and multi-level network marketing.
I've written one, Corey.
You have? I
It's
should read
extremely negative. You won't like it. I wrote it about 15 years ago. I'll send you a copy, you won't like it.
And related to that is the whole new paradigm that's being discussed now globally is business as mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 2017, the Philippines will host the Luzon Global Reflection on Business as Mission.
Yeah. So there's a lot to discuss on this. For my classes, it's helpful that the New Zealand Baptist, my people, in Calcutta have established a number of businesses as mission, particularly among the women coming out of sex trafficking. And these are very successful businesses that have rescued the hundreds of women now. They're very, very good models of business as mission. So that's quite helpful for us as a class. There are many models that fail, but these ones have succeeded. So that should go in that course. There's a lot to cover in that course. So in some ways, I let whatever the students are interning with, that determines what we cover in the course. They come back, this happened this time. Often they come back like with the self-help savings groups, where clusters of people put money together to save. These always work. We've never had a situation where it doesn't work. Now, occasionally you get some corruption, but we haven't faced it. But with microfinance, they come back and say, this doesn't work very well. But all the literature says it's the salvation of the world. So then there's real debate in the class about what is this microfinance, why doesn't it work? Because the scriptures say don't go into debt. And the whole thing's based on going into debt. And now the banks have got into it, so they can get the money from the poor. It's a great thing for banks to get poor people into debt. So supposedly the banks are helping the poor. In reality, the banks are sucking more money away from the poor. So these ethical issues are, I think, in this class, wonderful.
They're just huge.
Yeah. They are huge. And so we take 10 principles. I don't know if you know the 10 principles from Genesis 1. And that we've taught. You can find them somewhere in the stuff. But the first is the principle of love. All economics is based on love. We provide for our family because we love them. The Christian businessman sets up a business because he wants to provide work for people. So all Christian economics is based on love and human dignity. So that's the first principle. Second, in the beginning, God created. So creativity. Third, whatever he created was productive. It was good. In fact, he created things that created other things that created other things. It's very productive. We don't even have a chance of doing that. We can just create a piece of paper. It's very difficult to get paper that reproduces paper. So love, creativity, productivity. But then to get people being productive, one of the brothers in Uganda when I was there on the slums with Pastor Lukwego, he was at the back, he said, oh, I taught my people this. He said, everybody in my congregation now has a job. Then he said, but they don't come to church anymore. I said, principle number 4 is work and rest. So you didn't teach them that, did you? No. And then the 5th principle in there is God said, let us make. So cooperative economics, as against capitalism, as against Marxism, cooperative economics has been the normative teaching of the church throughout the century. So the idea of small cooperatives, the idea of savings cooperatives, marketing cooperatives, there's a whole theological foundation for that. So these are the first 5. And then you come to the Jubilee, redistribution. And you look at management and stewardship. So if you import an American program about finances, the Douglas stuff you imported, I suspect, it's all about how do you manage your money. Which is fun in America because these other things are built into the culture. But in the slums, these other things are not built in there. So you've got to teach the whole range. But certainly how to put together a budget. So some of our students in New Delhi worked with a group of poor people to work out how they could do a budget. These people can't read. How do they do a budget? So they worked out a way to do that with them, which is really pretty creative, and it worked. People really enjoyed it. And they began to figure out, oh, we're wasting some money here, or we can do it this way, or well, if we're going to save for that, then we're going to do it this way. So based on a budget, then they could start some financial planning, even though they're poor. So where else do we go? There's some other principles in there. Ownership. So the issue of ownership of land comes up. So 10 principles, and then we look at these from personal level, family level, community level, so that's community economics, national level, international level. So now you're applying these principles and critiquing capitalism or critiquing Marxism, or looking at the theories in terms of the slums, in terms of the informal sector and the formal sector, and how do these principles apply at these 2 different levels. So then you're getting into some quite significant discussion and debate. Of course, you can't teach everything, but it's opening the eyes of your students and giving them the tools to converse with other people in development fields. And some of them will now take this and run with it significantly.
So, within this framework you have for how the tool is operated, what about like formation of character on one end, and then also like learning, calling, and education? Where do those 2 things fit?
Yeah. So the character formation really depends on your professors. And their engagement in the early classes that then carries through. And I think most of you are pastors by heart, so that just happens, right? And in each class, I think there's always a couple, 2 or 3 lectures that are actually character formation lectures. Particularly the management class, I think that you're dealing with faithfulness and discipline and integrity you're dealing with a lot of issues in management which are character issues. So I think it flows all the way through the degree. The same with the gifts and calling. So I find that the students come in with a sense of call. I want to work with women coming out of prostitution. If they come in saying that, invariably at the end of the degree, they're saying that. Students say to me, I want to work with refugees. So she's doing her work among the refugees in her particular country, and she's looking at, when she graduates, working with an organization that works with refugees. So that flows through. But for others, as they get into a particular topic, they begin to sense that this is really where they can shine. And so the lights begin to go on for them. So I don't know if I've had anyone that's graduated that doesn't have that sense of pulling and direction. Whether they can then find a job, for our students going back to America to find a job in that direction is pretty hard. But we then have talked of a couple of years where they restructure their life, then they go back to the field to do what they really want to do. Yeah. So I think for the other schools, more will come in who are pastors among the poor, where the pastoral calling is their common calling. But many pastors among the poor are actually not gifted to be pastors. They're gifted in some other areas of ministry. So as they go through the program, they begin to realize, well, really, this is what I should be doing. So they move in different directions. Welcome, Don. Don grew up here?
Yes.
Pastor?
I am Pastor Jesse Magno, together with Pastor Ralph in the church. I am delighted if you could include in the course some reaching the rich. We help the poor. For example, how could we reach Donald Trump or Manny Pacquiao to help all of this? I don't know. But you know, in our context in the Philippines, is some of our resources are drying up. And of course, we cannot beg from the US, from other countries just to support us. But if you could include that, we will be delighted. And at the same time, you know, in my years in the urban poor also, I've discovered that our ministries or our strategies seems to be evolving into something that are no longer that we can no longer address some needs because it evolved into something. For example, if we could utilize our own business to make it bigger to support the urban poor. In my mind, if I have a business like a business that will address to the poor and having tithes of, for example, around 100 million or 10 million a month, you know, I could sustain workers and sustain the needs of local churches with urban poor ministries at the same time their needs. I don't know if you could include that, or is that the way you look at the urban poor ministry in the Philippines or in the Asia as a whole.
It's very good. Yes. It is actually what we are doing with the economics course, even the educational course. You set up a school that then enables a building for the church. So these two work together. But there is an extension in terms of accessing resources among the wealthier church. So working with the students, so one of their first courses, I get them to make a presentation. It's a fundraising presentation on church planting. So the church planting course, their final assignment, they have to present their church planting plan to the Presbyterian Board of Missions. and raise $25,000 or whatever for a church plant. So we had two students. I said, you can plant a church anywhere. So two students came, and they did a church plant on Mars. Because they said there was a lost Jewish tribe. They got sent by rocket to Mars. And so they're on Mars, they lived underground. And these are unreached people that are growing to 400,000 people. So they asked for $1 trillion and 225,000 to do this church plant on Mars. $1 trillion so they could get there, and $25,000 so they could plant the church. But their strategy for church planting was very good. So that's the first attempt to make a presentation to a board, and the board is the other students. But they make the presentation, the other students decide whether to give to them or not. And so they learn the first steps. So we do this 3 times during the degree. Is it enough? I think it's a very specialized field. How do you actually access money? How do you present what you're doing? But at least it begins to get them in that direction. I think you could do one course. I think Macmillan in Nairobi could design a course for us on this. We could do a complete course on fundraising. Yeah. The difficulty is very complex because the way support comes is quite different for different people. You know,
I think the course is just fundraising.
fundraising
Not
itself.
so like popular course.
Yeah.
There is the aspect of fundraising.
Yeah.
We have at ATS, we have 8 weeks, and you can study certificate in fundraising.
Okay.
8 Saturdays.
8 Saturdays.
You get the certificate.
Okay. Is it included in the M2U? It's not included in the M2U. Maybe it should be. What do you think it should be?
The issue of poverty is the issue of justice. And poverty is the effect, and the cause is injustice. And so we are up against the powerful, the rich. We are up against the structure and political structure, governmental structure. And so creating an economic project. Most microfinance projects cannot thrive in a capitalist system. And most the poor who borrowed money from microfinance, and microfinance the Philippines would charge higher interest than the bank. There's another injustice. It boils down to, when we know the Lord Jesus Christ, it boils down to justice. We need to do justice personally. Living simply. We have to enrich the poor. I was talking with the pastors in Payatas, that pastors should not enrich themselves. They should help to enrich the members. Just like the example of the 12 tribes of Israel. The Levites work full-time in the temple. They don't make money. But if they have to enrich the 11 tribes, and the 11 tribes give 10%, then the Levite would have 110% income. That's justice. And so, one way of addressing this poverty is for us to create an economic project that is sustainable. Maybe in a macro level. And it needs a lot of capital to do that. I am now in the process of putting up a farm. And in our studies, if this farm is up and running, it would earn $1 million or more income a year, and it provides laborers to others. And the net profit from this farm is to fund the projects and programs of the school, of the church, as well as to help the pastors who are underpaid or under support. And so this is the justice project, I call it justice project. But we also have, we call that a mercy project, where we give money to those people who don't deserve it, but they didn't need it. So we have to combine these two. While we are helping the people to do justice project, to get them out from poverty, we have to help them on a mercy level. We help them with capital, and a capital that doesn't charge much. So most of the microfinance projects in the Philippines is, I'm sorry to say this, but it's very, very I'm looking for a word for that, you know, just to, yeah. It's very unjust.
Okay. Thank you, Jude. Yeah. And this is the experience in different places. In some places it's just, but in many places there are problems. And particularly now, the banks are getting into it, then there's a lot of issues that are coming up. In India particularly, the regulation by the Indian government's making it more and more difficult for the poor. It's meant to help, but the opposite is happening. Once you get the governments in, they see money. They try to pull the money. Yeah. So I think it's lunchtime, is that right? What time is lunch? Oh, 12:30 for lunch. Oh. Yeah.
Can I speak to? One problem that we see that we are now starting to address is the early pregnancy, teenage pregnancy in the slum communities. And so we're planning now to have a program of purity preservation, you know, get the 12-year-old girls up to 18 and talk to them about the importance of purity, because it's very rampant now, the teenage pregnancy among the poor, even among the Christian churches. And so I don't know whether this will be included, and I'm with a Rotary Club now, and we will be starting to make this a project as well. So I'm looking for a nice word. We want to create a movement among young girls on purity preservation. So that's what we are. There is already a movement that started in the US. It's to really help young women preserve their purity. There are already just to respond briefly to June about the farm. A few years ago, we set up an organic farm. And just in a split second, we lost everything because of the typhoon. So you have to contend with the typhoon.
Where are the mountains?
These are very, very practical.
In reaction to the call for purity, sometimes issues of purity are also tied to the issues of the urban setting, because houses are so close together, and sometimes the houses are so small that the children end up seeing the parents do the act. So there's hardly any privacy. So any movement that wants to deal with purity must eventually also deal with the issues of property, land, housing. That's an important. It's a more integrated solution to the issue of property. So I think the Matul program, in a way, it deals with justice, helps to meet that particular aspect in a roundabout. But of course, a direct address is still necessary at times. And
The more it's needed.
yeah. And with regards to also to the farm, so Liloc has like an organic farming as well in the mountains. One of the big problems will be maintenance. That's just to say that it's going to be something that we have to consider for farm. Maintenance for farm buildings and all of that, farm tools, it's a very big. And labor, what is a just wage? That's actually something that's still being debated. What does a just, when you want to go into a capitalist system, what does a just wage look like? So capitalist system business will require wages, and we haven't really figured out yet what the just wage looks like. How much are you supposed to be able to pay your workers while still sustaining the business? It's kind of a tricky thing. So I'm not sure if Matul addresses questions like that. For the community economics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in ours, we talk about livable wage, what's needed for people to live in the context in which they carry out their daily lives. But then the issue is maybe not so much the justice of the wage itself, but how much is enough?
How much is it?
Yeah, in terms of both. In terms of that.
So I think each of these courses depends to some extent on the internships that students take. So if they're involved in something that deals with these issues, then it will become a topic within the course. I think both your topic could fit within the healthcare course, which does include HIV/AIDS, or perhaps could come in the course on the marginalized. I'm not sure where it fits exactly.
It seems like in most of those issues will be touched upon some way or another in all the courses, because they're dealing with the realities of the urban context. Yeah, those are there all the time. In South LA, we're dealing with the social determinants for the pandemic in terms of sexually transmitted infections, which is booming. And South LA is the epicenter in California. But when you look at social determinants, you look at issues of poverty, right, exploitation. It's also a center for human trafficking. So there's a lot going on. It's not just a health issue. So I've been part of that, and eventually get our students involved in those realities. I mean, that kind of a context. Not just study it, but maybe help us facilitate, bringing together the faith community and those kinds of issues. And the public sector is looking for partners. And we're the most significant presence in South LA. There's at least 1,300 identified congregations. That's not those sharing facilities or median households. So we are a dominant, underutilized resource that our pastors have yet to realize, understand what they can really do to transform that kind of, reality into something that gives young women opportunities. They feel like they have a choice. When often the factors are they're captives, right, in some fashion, in terms of culture, in terms of economics, in terms of what it means to help support a family. So those are things that are very real. And so the lab is the city itself, right, not the classrooms.
I add in on that. I'm a pastor in an ethnic church in LA as well. And many of our people in the church are working on the minimum wage or a bit below. And the living wage is much higher than the minimum wage.
Sure.
And the only way out for them is drugs and prostitution. Really. So if they work honestly, they will not leave.
Yeah.
Right? If they're honest and the only way they can make enough money to live is to sell marijuana, which is semi-legal.
Right.
Or semi-legal, or
for medical purposes, it's okay, right?
And so it's gigantic. Like, I have to live.
Right.
The only way I can live is by joining a gang, or engaging in crime, or drugs and prostitution, or by scamming the government. And a lot of the Christians end up scamming the government on disability,
Yes.
because that's the only Christian option out, is to lie to the government. It's better than shooting someone or selling drugs. So, I don't know, I'm not an urban ministry expert like you guys in the room, but how to deal with the ethical issue of how do I be a Christian when the only way to survive
Right.
is by doing something dishonest? Right? So how do you address that ethical quandary, which a lot of people, I believe, here as well, is
Yes,
stuck.
yes. Absolutely. That's prevalent in terms of our immigrant populations that come into work. But you know, that's how I got into this. When young people, we did the whole thing about the church. We created a safe place for them. We actually zeroed out baby making, right? Held the males responsible, but also stayed in school. You know, you don't have to graduate at the top of your class. But then the young people said to me, Pastor, we know how to get money,
Yeah.
right? But now you challenge us to be able, we're tired of looking over our shoulders. We want to be able to earn it. But no one is hiring us.
And if they
Right.
do hire, they hire them at pitiful.
Oh, absolutely. And they withhold wages, right?
Right.
They withhold the wages often because that's the way they kept. So that's a different version of human trafficking or control, because you want to get paid, so you don't want to leave because you're not going to have a chance to do that. And so you have very well-endowed businesses that exploit that situation. too.
They say 12 hours a week, so they get 12 hours a week at a pitiful wage. And then they got to find another business or give them another 12 hours a week at a pitiful wage. They can never get 3 jobs because each business is changing its schedule. So the most they can work is 24 hours a week at a pitiful wage, which is nothing. They can't even pay rent because rent in LA is astronomical.
We're the least affordable city in the United States.
In at least, and so the people are trapped.
Yes.
Good Christian young
Yes.
people are
Yes.
actively considering crime.
Right. Or
Just to-
are doing.
Are doing crime. Okay, they tell me, Pastor John, that they're not.
Yes,
They are.
yes. Right now, I can name people who are involved in some
And so there needs to be something to teach the students how to teach people how to deal with that conflict.
Those are issues. Advocacy, as the young man said, you know, changing those injustices that are there. But yeah. And then when you get into church planning, right? How do you sustain that church if you have these other things? So does God bless that? How do you tithe on that illegal activity?
That's okay. To me,
Okay. Don't tell me, right?
Go ahead, say something.
5 years ago, we started a manpower agency to provide jobs for the urban poor youth. And lately, we are, I'm trying to discern whether it's worth pursuing it because of injustice. The way it works, we try to employ or contract out the urban poor youth to a company.
Yeah.
And this company is supposed to pay us for the wages that we pay the youth. But this company would say, we cannot pay you because SM has not paid us. SM is a huge conglomeration. And so our money as a small manpower is tied up to SM because our partner could not collect from SM. And so, like 4 million pesos, that should be like rolling for us. But we cannot collect because they cannot collect from SM. So I said, what do we do now? And we have all these people to provide wage every 15 days. And we are having difficulty because SM is not paying.
You need to get Rainier to write a letter.
Well, yeah, today Rainier and Grace are going to this partner. But this partner is saying, I cannot collect from SM. And so Rainier today and Grace are trying to figure out, So I said, what are we going to do? So injustice.
Yeah.
And then minimum wage. What is really a fair minimum wage for an urban poor youth who is entry level? You know, no skills. The government has certain
Our labor,
Yeah.
our labor law has.
yeah, but then the corporation would say if we pay
Yeah.
the minimum wage, we might as well close shop
Yeah.
because we cannot sustain
Yes.
our
Let alone the actual family living wage, which is around, it was around 700 pesos in 2007, I think, but it's now around nearly 1,000 per family to survive in a day. For family of 5 or 6, I think. But the minimum wage is
Yes.
460.
Lower.
So
460.
Yeah, so that's what that gap between minimum and livable, right?
Yeah.
No one's saying I need to drive a Mercedes. They're just saying just want to be able to live.
that's something else.
Just recently we were in America. We spent most of our time in America, in California. And if Americans were to live simply,
That other people can just simply live, right?
right, yeah. It's cheaper to live in America than in Manila.
Yeah.
You can go to the 99-cent shop.
Yes.
Okay?
How do you think we live?
Yeah, that's how we do it.
99-cent championship.
TJ Maxx,
The
Marshalls. Goodwill.
Shop should be here in the Philippines.
Yeah.
In America, you have a lot of wastage.
Yeah.
You waste a lot.
Yeah.
That could feed the whole of the those world countries.
Yes.
Okay? And we do that.
Yes.
Living in America, or in Manila, the full Manila, you could live with 250 cents a day, a
Yeah.
family of 5. Because the poor are very creative
Yeah.
how to live with that much. So, there's just a global injustice.
Sure.
The national injustice and personal injustice. Because we don't live simply, we want to keep up with what's going on in our country. But of course, the model of simplicity is Jesus Christ. There's this good book that I bought from Fuller, The Freedom of Simplicity by Richard Foster.
Oh yeah.
It's a very good book.
The question is spiritual defilement. The young person who spiritually defiles themselves in order to survive. The girl who sleeps around, takes money in order just to survive,
Yeah.
and who breaks their spiritual conscience. That's how can they avoid spiritual defilement just for the sake of, whatever.
Yeah.
Just to add to what